Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Michael John Trotta, and on behalf of Reverend Sam Wells, Olivia Tate, Andrew Iris, I'd like to welcome you to St. Martin in the Fields. Behind me, St. Martin's voices are lending voice to this Requiem for Dying Matters Awareness Week, and Phoebe is up with the organ, playing the part on the King of all instruments, giving us our support for today. So why a requiem and why now? The word requiem means rest, literally rest. It comes from the Catholic funeral liturgy, and it comes from the first word, rest, requiem. Rest grant unto them, and let perpetual light shine upon them. And tomorrow marks the beginning of Dying Matters Awareness Week. And I think it's an important thing that we think about all of the ways in our life that loss and grief can come to us. It's such an amazing thing for me that Hospice UK has called for this awareness, and this year around the language of death, the language of dying. And even though it's springtime when so many things are being given new life, that still in the background there's this idea of loss that touches each one of us in a different way. And as musicians, we have always sought to make sense of life through music. So our idea today is to examine what so many of the great composers have done in response and take some of the great requiem movements and intersperse them with newer requiems and a very new requiem, the last piece which you heard from my requiem release just 2 days ago, the Dies Irae, and try to see if we might examine that in the midst of what is such tragedy and such loss, if there's a way that some of this music might give us a moment of hope. The music might transport us to a place where we can find peace. For me, the Requiem began as a church movement for a movement from the liturgy, which was for people who had gone before us. Throughout the ages, composers have rewritten the work and changed it and transformed it, and you'll hear some of that today. They've taken it out of Latin and they've brought it into the vernacular. They've taken non-liturgical texts, they've taken poetry, and they've turned it into a prayer for those of us left behind. And my idea is that Requiem might be a moment of rest. It might be a prayer for all of us, that when we face the unknown, that we might find peace, that we might find hope, and we might find solace. So the first two pieces you heard today were Mozart's Introit from his Requiem, the last piece that scholars agree that were written in his own hand. It's the beginning, the text, rest eternal grant to them, and let perpetual light shine upon them. And that was followed by Dies Irae, which was written and just released several days ago, kind of quoting, in my mind, the Requiem has two characters. The one character is the character of fear, and you heard that in the choir. They sang, Dies Irae, Dies, and you hear that, and later, upcoming now, you're going to hear two works, one by Brahms, How Lovely is Thy Dwelling Place. Brahms was the first composer to take the Requiem text and put it in the vernacular. For him, it was his German Requiem. And I don't think it's out of line to say that he would approve of us performing it today in English, the language of the people. So you'll hear first, How Lovely Are Thy Dwellings, from Brahms' Requiem, and then Lux Aeterna, Light Eternal. We move now to Eleanor Daly. Do not stand by my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. A very popular poem. Scholars have had a little bit of trouble finding out who did it first. It's such a great poem, everyone's trying to lay claim to it. And in any case, it's a wonderful way, and it marks the beautiful addition of poetry, non-liturgical, non-biblical text, to the Requiem. BBC Music Magazine has a wonderful article entitled Music to Die For, and it says that by the time we get to the 20th century, the 21st century, the only thing that they have in common is that they're somehow associated with death. And it's a really fun article if you like, if you like kind of in-depth analysis. And then it also goes through and it kind of rates these Requiem works by different composers, and it gives them, like the kind of a score. Like a Fear and Fire and Brimstone gets 5 flames, and then ones that are filled with faith and hope get 5 angel wings. And you can hear today as we go through each work, it has kind of a different flavor. And I think it speaks a lot to, again, those elements of fear and then hope. But you'll find nothing but hope and absolute faith and warmth and light in Eleanor Daly's beautiful In Remembrance. And that's going to be followed by Pie Jesu, perhaps made most famous by Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber in his 1986 Requiem, where he extended the tradition of both Duruflé and Fauré and gave this sweet, intimate prayer. He said it for two voices, a boy soprano and a soprano. In the version we'll hear today, in my Pie Jesu, you'll hear 2 sopranos also, and we are fortunate today to have Sarah Keating and Natalie Holston singing those parts. The text for the Pie Jesu is, "Sweet Jesus, have mercy on me, remember me." And it's a very intimate prayer. And without further ado, you'll now hear In Remembrance by the choir and then the duet Pie Jesu.
Sleep.
For me, loss came early in my life. My father died suddenly and unexpectedly when I was just 7 years old. And I remember kind of the community coming out in support for the first few weeks immediately following. And then it seemed as if everyone else's life went back to normal and mine was still changed forever. And as I see heads nodding up and down, as I look out, I'm thinking that this is one of the things that for me I think was most difficult. You know, how do I think about this? How do I grapple with this? And for me, there was so much silence in my life. And really it wasn't until my training and schooling as a musician that, you know, music is where I found my solace. And very much so, as a church musician, I would sit up in the organ loft for these funerals at a Catholic church, and I would hear over and over again, you know, rest grant unto them, let perpetual light shine upon them. And it was like each time I heard those words, I experienced kind of a mini healing. And for me, it was so much the case that it was an opportunity to kind of heal in public. It's very interesting that on the Hospice UK's social media, they have had lots of conversations about how do we even bring up this conversation? How do we even talk about these difficult things? And, you know, and for me as a musician, music was the way that I always kind of dealt with these things. So move on, you know, another 10 years and I'm in university studying music, and then I get introduced to these concert works, the works of Brahms that we heard, the works of Mozart that we heard. And what happens is that we've taken something that was just lived in a church and it's kind of been transmuted into the concert hall. By the time we get to the works of Verdi and Berlioz, we have literally 400 performers, where something that was once just for church now has become something for concert. And for me, the idea of requiem, the idea of rest, is something I've always sought out and very much so found in this music. During one of the early performances of my requiem, a preacher came to me afterwards and he said, "We don't have enough places in public to experience this kind of thing." And one of the things that I like so much about Requiem is it's an opportunity to experience either passively, you can just listen and experience the music. It's an opportunity that you can take part, whether in a choir or whatnot. But it is an opportunity to experience something that we just don't talk about a whole bunch. So our final two movements today are by two French composers, Fauré, the Libera Me, which interesting is that these two are not from the actual Requiem Mass, but they happen, pardon me, it's the Libera Me is said next to the coffin, immediately after the Requiem Mass, but before the burial. Deliver me, Lord, from death on that fearful day when the heavens and earth will be moved. I am made to tremble because I fear judgment upon me when the heavens and earth shall be moved. And then we hear it again, and you'll hear it in the choir in just a moment. Rest eternal grant unto them, and let light shine upon them. And we'll finish today with Duruflé's In Paradisum, which is said immediately next to the grave. And you can almost envision, he paints the picture so beautifully, you can almost envision the choirs of angels coming to greet you on that day. And what a beautiful image, what an image of hope that when we face the unknown, that we'll be greeted by choirs of angels and light. Certainly a wonderful thing to look forward to. I will say, since you will not get, I won't speak again, I will say that the work here at St. Martin in the Fields is so important musically and socially So if you would like to be part of supporting that, there's a way to do that. I believe on the back here, there's a QR code, and then there's also a way on your way out. So that's our kind of public service announcement for that. So thank you so much for joining us today. We do have immediately following 5 p.m. today, Choral Evensong. So if you found that you loved what you heard, but it wasn't quite enough, please join us for that as well. So finishing up today, we'll hear the Fore Libera Me, followed by Durafle's In Paradisum.